One of my favorite parts of Single Life Workshop is when we come to a session called What's Coming Against You. How many of us don't have something coming against us? None of us. Very interesting. But what is amazing about this is that you get to see people completely engaged between them and Holy Spirit in something that maybe they've been stuck in their entire lives, and you can just feel the entire room is just glued in watching someone experience breakthrough that they may have never experienced before. And in this particular workshop, we got to witness a pretty amazing one where a woman got healing in an area that she had been living with for decades in her life.
And really, the testimonies are the reason why we do this workshop at all. And it's our favorite part, and it lets us know that God is actually doing something. And these testimonies are worth sharing, because even if you don't have exactly the same situation, there's lots of things that are applicable to all of us. And it just testifies that God is ready to do something amazing in your life just as well as other people's lives. So we hope you get something encouraging out of this.
Yeah, at 13, I was raped. And it happened twice that year. After these rapes, I definitely developed behaviors of trying to cope with this as a young person. And in doing that, my family sent me to get help. And in getting the help, the lie was never exposed that it was rape. And instead, I basically was told, you need to get yourself together and quit acting like a whore. And at the time when I heard that, it made me really mad. I just got involved with people. My life got super promiscuous as a 17, almost 18-year-old. Fake IDs in clubs, going home with strangers. And in the process of doing that, I met a group of people who were drug dealers. So they started paying for my rent, getting my nails done, anything that you might think a 17 or 18-year-old is gonna think is really cool. It's like I'm on top of the world, somebody paid to get my nails done, I have a new outfit. So they started doing kind of those little things, spending time with me, getting me high, and when eventually it came to one night that I was invited to stay over at their house, and the couple raped me together. And that basically was my introduction into working for them. And so everywhere I went, I would say in a couple of months or less after I got away from those original people who basically came and stole everything out of my apartment because I owed them. And so everywhere I went, I'm introduced into this new life where now I can keep my money, or at least half of my money, and work on my own. And so I actually worked as my own, as an escort for about 3 agencies. When I walked into this Waffle House, there were 6 guys there. They were from Atlanta. And it did not take much convincing for them to ask me, hey, do you want to go with us? And basically just said, hey, do you want to go to our room and get high? And I was like, just turned 19, super naive still, even though of all this other things I've been through. And for whatever reason, I said yes. And you can imagine what happened that night. And then the next day, they took me to Atlanta to pimp me, and they argued over who would pimp me. And they passed me around their whole crew. And there was kind of like a major break where I did get away, and I pretty much was homeless. I say that because it fits the definition of homelessness. So I pretty much was homeless, living in and out of hotels, pretty seedy ones at that. And one night I found out I was pregnant. And that, I remember I took the test and I kind of sunk down, and I was like, wow, I'm done, this is it. And so that's really when God kind of started my restoration process. I called my mom that night and I said, Mom, I'm pregnant. And she said, well, what are you gonna do? She said, I've been waiting on one of 3 calls. 1, you're dead. 2, you're in prison. 3, you're pregnant. I'm really glad it's this one. You can come home if you want. And so the next day, I packed up all my stuff. I gave away my cigarettes. I never smoked again. And I moved back home. I never left my parents. I mean, I have left. I never left my parents' house. I went home, and God started this really beautiful restoration process with my family. And I was listening to a Single Life Workshop teaching, and Lori was talking about like Christians' healthy sexuality. And the teaching made me feel so vile. I mean, it was so difficult for me. And I actually listened to the whole thing, oddly enough. It was so difficult for me to listen to that I was like hanging on to the desk where I was sitting, listening to the whole thing, and just knowing in my heart, wow, like this is bothering me, and obviously there's something that I need to deal with, because when I do get married, I do want to know what healthy, safe, I want to feel safe, I want to feel healthy. Shared my story with my group while we were sitting eating lunch, and all their faces, they were so sweet, so amazing. But in sharing my story, I remembered this word, curse. And I hadn't thought about it in a long time. But when I said it, it brought back such emotion that I knew it was still affecting me. And so I go through my whole story, and then when we sit down and we start the spirit connection, and when Lori got up and started talking, almost immediately when she started talking about it, I heard it. I heard the exact thing that I just told my group. I heard you're just a whore. Like, get it together. And I knew that it had been impacting me since that moment. And then Lori said, if your heart is beating like you feel like you're, what'd she say, about to have a heart attack, raise your hand. So that's how I felt. So I quickly raised my hand. And I don't know that I thought too much between the time I was sitting down and between the time I got on stage. When they asked me to say the curse, it almost felt like I was reliving it. And so of course, like that was initially really difficult for me. But once we got through breaking the word curse, and of course, like the support of having Lori, Jeremy, and Barry kind of all there, and really I could feel the acceptance of the group. I was like breathing new air. I was breathing for the first time. Like I could finally see through the clutter. And probably one of my favorite parts, obviously besides breaking the curse, was when they actually asked to roar. That was new in a mic. And so, but when they said, hey, we want everyone to roar with her, something that actually also broke something in me. That broke this major, I can't tell you the level of like acceptance that rained down on me in that moment. That was almost just as precious to me as the whole experience. I felt so enveloped with love that,